to play the intro, and we'll get into it. Our forefathers fought for liberty, individual freedom, self-expression, and the right to self-determination. They created a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, establishing a nation of free individuals who ignited a bright beacon of hope. America's a land where any person, from any background, can succeed, so long as they endeavor forthright with determination in their heart. A melting pot, the greatest hits album of the human race. We gather here today to renew that sacred bond, that oath to freedom. Welcome to the marketplace of ideas.
Sophie, were you arguing with the intro?
Always. I'm cantankerous like that.
All right.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show that Dylan Burns once accused of being a crypto groyper psyop, the marketplace of ideas. I'm your host, Kyle Smith, and with me is a man who may be more interested in bringing the red to the Red-Brown Alliance, James Vagabond.
Thank you very much, Kyle. You know what, as a communist, I feel so blessed and rich by the splendor of our guests tonight that I might actually have to eat myself after the show. But I don't think I will have to, because this show is for the people and by the people. So today on the Marketplace of Ideas, we continue our deep dive into our discussions of the future of the Democratic Party. With an excellent panel of guests. Sincere apologies to our conservative audience. If any of you are still watching after the gauntlet of liberal safe spaces we've hosted over the last month, we hope you've at least seen a better side of the left than you're used to, a cut above the triggered SJWs and communist cucks you've been taught to expect. And hopefully you've managed to appreciate the diversity of meaningful perspective on the left we've hosted over the past few weeks. We do intend to balance that out in our near future and reach further into the meaningful discussions of the right wing in upcoming episodes, but not today. Today we have a select panel of individuals who I believe represent a positive left, interested in discussing the important issues and ideas critical to our times in good faith. Even when I have a meaningful disagreement on a given issue with one of these people, I believe they are honest and intelligent pundits for the left, working with compassion and integrity to make a better world. Okay. Now the script says, glaze the guests individually. Was that not enough glazing? This feels like a lot. Okay. So I present to you Dylan Burns, documentarian and American hero who fights tyranny both abroad and at home. Welcome back, Dylan. And we have Kalinda, an up-and-coming streamer with brains and heart as big as her zeal for justice. We have with Sophie, a volunteer activist and mother who finds time to enable her fellow man and woman to fight on behalf of democracy, helping to sow a better tomorrow. And last but not least, Soy Pill. All right, that's enough glazing. It's time for some triggering. It's time to play Straw Man, Steel Man.
Straw Man.
Steel Man. So this game, if you haven't seen it yet, is the game where we give you straw man arguments. That is to say, weak and potentially triggering bad arguments. And we're going to be asking each of you, our panelists, to steel man these arguments as best as you can. That is to say, strengthen them and make them sound as respectable as possible.
Thank you for joining
Afterwards,
Colapitalism.
you'll have the opportunity
Wow,
to say what you actually believe. So on this panel, within the Halls of Heroes of Debate, we have returning once again the Soy Pill. We have here for the first time with Sophie. We've also got on my other side, we've got Kalinda back once again. And for the second time back from our second episode, we've got Dylan Burns. Now, I heard somebody say worst pictures. I disagree. These were solid gets. I did my best to find pictures that would best represent you on this stage. So I think we've done pretty well. Without further ado, let me present the scroll of the straw man. And Soy Pill, I would ask you, if you would, my friend, please read your scroll here and defend it as best you can.
All right. Chuck Schumer is doing an incredible job as Senate Democrat leader. His main job is to whip Democratic votes and keep party unity, not push for extreme solutions to fight Trump. We don't even have the votes anyways. I don't know why there's a comma there. I would never put a comma there. That's a straw man. Yeah, I mean, essentially, there's a fair argument to be made that he's not doing a bad job of holding the coalition together. I mean, we got wins from both shutdowns. He was right to say that Trump's popularity was going to drop a few, 6 to 8 months after the election, and that would be a better time to attack and try to rally up support. And so, I mean, like, he's doing the best he can, right, with what he's got. We're a big tent, and there are lots of competing opinions. I think that's the best steel man of that.
Very good.
All right.
Steely enough. What do you actually believe?
You feckless fucking cuck. Stop calling Trump a taco for not bombing Iran. Get your fucking shit done. Step down. Get someone up there that's actually going to fight for something instead of like chanting "we will win" like an 80-year-old geriatric bitch. Like, fucking hate you, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Please, for the love of God, like, can we get some people that are actually fighters up there and push the party in a direction that actually matters? All right.
All right, a stark contrast between your Steelman efforts and your actual beliefs. Well done on that Steelman. With Ophi, if you wouldn't mind, your scroll is next.
All right, I'm going to make it bigger because I'm hard of seeing. Politics is broken. What's the point? Both parties are basically the same, and I can't do anything as an individual. My vote counts for nothing. Things are too hard, and I just don't feel like I can make a difference. And boy, is it so easy to be black-pilled these days. You look up and you see how much effort went into rallying around Kamala Harris. She was brat. She had Beyonce support, and somehow she still wasn't able to pull through. So I see how that can be disheartening. For those of us who lived through the 2016 vote, and it was a punch in the gut to see Trump win over Hillary, and then to see that happen again. It's demoralizing, and especially as a Black woman, to realize that y'all don't give a shit about us. Like, basically the majority of the country, popular vote included, said that we would rather have the least qualified white man in office over the most qualified Black woman. And that is it's understandable. Politics certainly feels broken. Yes.
Well, you found the kernel of truth there, but how do you actually think?
What's funny is I actually I understand the black pill. I really do, but there's so much that we can do. There's so much as individuals that we can take control over. You also have to think about the fact that when people try to take something away from you, it's probably very, very valuable. So the more Hassan tries to get you to sit at home and not vote, the more they try to gerrymander to take away your vote, the more they try to make laws to make it so that it's harder for you to vote, the more you need to vote. That's basically them telling you that your voice matters, your voice makes a difference. And so I'm actually the head mod of Digital Ground Game. It's a political action server. We put boots on the ground for canvassing, phone banking, emailing. We are really doing our best to try to actually prove that no matter where you're coming from or what you want to do, you can impact this political movement.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Well said. Well then, moving right along to our next panelist, we've got Kalinda. Kalinda, if you could please read from your scroll and defend it as best you can.
Oh my God. MAGA is right that our politicians should be America first, not spending billions on foreign wars like Ukraine, which doesn't even benefit us. Mearsheimer is right. Russia is just doing what any great power would do, just like the US did with the Marshall Plan, which is definitely something I've heard of before this conflict. Wow, you're really doing this to me. You specifically wrote that to trigger me, didn't you?
That's what we try to do here in the Marketplace of Ideas, and it sounds like it might have worked.
Yes.
So
no.
As best you can, defend that for us, please.
I especially loved having to make you say the words Mearsheimer is right.
Mm.
Yeah, that hurt just a little bit. Part of my soul died. Okay. To defend this statement, I mean, it's basically like isolationism, right? So America has an incredibly high debt right now. It owes a lot of money. There's a lot of problems going on in the US. Lots of things are falling apart. Infrastructure needs to be fixed. And instead of spending money on that, the United States decides to send billions of dollars over to Ukraine. And I mean, that's just very silly. Also, Europe and NATO are not paying their fair share, not even just for Ukraine, but also for their GDPs, for like their defense budgets. Because after the end of the Cold War, they all stopped caring about funding their militaries and thought, and like they take the US for granted and think that they're going to be there forever. And that's like exceedingly annoying and stupid. And you know what? As stupid as Trump was being with regards to Greenland and whatnot, he did have a point about the fact that Europe really doesn't feel like investing in its own security and they think that they can just rely on America forever. They didn't take Russia seriously. Russia is just going to do what Russia's going to do. The US shouldn't have let all those extra countries into NATO. And they should have told Ukraine, no, you can't join NATO when Ukraine
Agent Orange, no, I sorry, I'm not keeping up with the Armenian elections.
is supposed to be neutral, as is clarified in the Budapest Memorandum. That hurt. Thanks.
As painful as it may have been, you turned the straw into steel as best you could, but what do you actually believe?
I mean, I base the opposite of pretty much everything I just said, except for the part about NATO. Europe really does need to invest more in their own defense. And I mean, I've been learning a lot about this more recently. It has been really crappy that they just haven't really invested a whole lot and that they stopped investing, and it has taken them forever. And if you look, like, there's polling data, I think, that shows that, for example, most Germans wouldn't want to join the military to defend their country, and there's just like a whole bunch of problems there, except for France. France seems like the only one, and Eastern Europe. I should clarify, Eastern and Central Europe, like Poland and like the Baltics and all those countries, they know what's up. But countries like Germany and the UK, and Spain and Italy are just, yeah, they all just thought the US was going to be there forever, and now they are dealing with that. But otherwise, no, fuck Russia, fuck Putin, fuck Mearsheimer, especially fuck Mearsheimer. And Ukraine should be in
He's somehow
NATO.
even worse.
Yeah.
Someone sent me some clips of him recently just being fully crazy, and it was surprising to be even more disappointed in that person for.
Guys, this is crazy. I got a fan for $40 like 20 minutes ago and not sweating my ass off in every single panel. This is great. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. I'm fucking stupid.
At least, Dylan, if you could please, for our last scroll, read this and defend it as best you can.
Sure. I don't agree with everything Trump is doing with immigration, but it's better than the open border policy of the Democrats. If Democrats cared about this country, they would have a serious immigration policy. Won't someone thinks of the cats and the dogs? So here's the first thing. Number one, there was never any moat under any Democratic administration, right? And that seems like a pretty simple policy. You just dig a big moat. It's a big hole. You just dig it. It's long. That produces jobs. That gets the economy going. That's Keynesian. Isn't that what you guys like? And that's something, they could do pretty easily, but they never did. Obama said he could give everyone health care, but he couldn't even dig a hole. And that's something that people should really think about. Second, I understand people have a problem with a wall, and that's okay. We could also do a gate. We could do, I don't know, some sort of like spiky wall, like you see from like, I don't know, like tribes and like old HBO's originals and stuff, like a spiky wall. I think we could do like a bunch of roaming kind of like dangerous forests where we take the nation's like best crazy people and we just put them in the forest, and if you get through it, that shows you're good enough to be here. Whatever policy, we need to have something that's better. But under Joe Biden, you know what we had? Something.
Wow. Incredible.
We had something.
Sure was something.
I mean, maybe more of an aluminum foil man than a steel man, but but either way, the effort is appreciated. What do you actually think about this argument?
I mean, like we didn't have an open border under Biden. Somebody could talk about how we can like strengthen immigration policy, but I think that there's a difference between having an open border and having the border like come through your neighborhood with mass agents like dictating like how they're gonna police when you don't even know who they are. There's a difference between having a closed border and having like no warrant rights. There's a difference between having like a closed border and having 99% of your refugees allowed into the country being like South African Afrikaners. Like there's like a difference here, and it seems like I don't trust Trump, but that's the bold stance I'm gonna take today.
Is that we shouldn't give up all of our rights dating back to the Magna Carta just to get rid of some people who some people say are undesirable. Interesting take that we shouldn't give up all of our American freedoms for that.
No more than one or two rights, no more.
Yeah. Choose one, guys. Don't take away our right to a fair trial, our ability, our protections against illegal search and seizure, and our First Amendment. Choose one, guys.
James looks like Tommy Wiseau to me. I'm getting Tommy Wiseau, The Room vibes from him. I want him to say like all of his words in like slurred English.
That one's
Happy
already waning, so all right.
Well,
Beautiful.
Well, excellent. Yeah, strong effort from everybody in this game of Straw Man, Steel Man. What a great way to start the show out. And just so everybody's aware, we do have
A new
some
feature that
additional-
we've been rolling out.
Indeed. We are proud to introduce on our creator stock list Dylan Burns and with Sophie, starting off at the standard amount. If you want to show your support for these creators, along with these other creators that we have listed, non-fun hanging on to the top spot somehow, I think some market manipulation might be happening. But if you'd like to support anybody on this list, you can join our Discord server and spend our fake currency grift coin, which we use here in the marketplace of ideas. It is fake. It's not a real investment. It's something better. You are showing your support for the creators and the ideas that you like.
Kyle,
So,
have you seen the end of Fight Club?
yeah, I have.
Yeah,
The whole thing,
I'm not
actually.
threatening anything, but like if I don't top the charts by the end of this, some
I
buildings
mean-
might not exist in the future. That's
I mean,
all
as
I'm
long
gonna
as
say.
they're not in my city, I don't really see any reason to care. But
You have to take
maybe-
out all of Discord servers. Good luck.
Well, anyway, with that said, we have an ongoing discussion here on the marketplace of ideas and within the left at large. How
If you super chat them collapse, I gotta read them. So
the moderates, quote unquote, or with the further left, is having a Nazi tattoo the best base for winning a Democratic primary? Lots of questions to ask regarding the Democrats as they are currently constituted. How shall we open things up? Why don't we go in order from well, we don't actually have an established, at least as far as I can tell. Dylan, since you went last with the straw man, steel man, why don't you tell us your thoughts about the way the midterms are shaping up and the way the Democrats should be going about these upcoming elections?
Sure, I'm sure we're gonna get into specifics of like Platinumania and everything else after this, so I'll just stick to broad strokes. I think historically speaking, the tidal waves, like the trends, seem to be positive. Democrats, while the DNC itself doesn't have a lot of money on hand, which is getting a lot of attention, the campaigns that the DNC is promoting do have quite a lot of money on hand. Tellerico did not have to fight a brutal primary. Tellerico did quite well, and then as John Cornyn and Ken Paxton had to go off on their, match against each other off in a second round, going off. Donald Trump did not wait until the right moment to jump in. He waited until the very end to jump in. And Donald Trump's poor decision making and choosing a candidate there might put Texas more realistically on the map. When you talk about the situation in Iowa when it comes to the election there, where Democrats are now having a better shot of performing decent there, that's a positive for Democrats. Ohio, Sherrod Brown is having better numbers than I expected, which I think speaks to, again, the general trends, the general shifting. If you look at the polling that the president has himself, it's very negative. If you look at the polling that Republican leadership has right now, it's very negative. The only thing that's more negative is Democratic polling, which doesn't speak to great things, but I think that says one thing, is that Democrats hate themselves. I mean, they're like a teenage girl looking in the mirror. They have a million like things to reflect upon themselves negatively, looking for each error, and they see it and they register it in a way that is both good but also very discouraging. And on the Republican side, there's a lot.
That's a really good analogy from Dylan. Democrats are like someone with like body dysmorphia. We're our own worst critic, and if we could all just glaze ourselves, how much better we'd do.
Very, very interesting metaphor. I was raised by my grandfather who castrated pigs on a farm. My terminology and tautology is a little out of dated. But at the end of the day, Democrats, I think, are more self-loathing. And I think that's where a lot of that polling comes from, where if you poll Democrats, they also don't like Democrats. If you poll Republicans, that's different when you ask pollsters. So some of the polling comes to that. But I also think that you cannot like both parties and decide differently, like I'm going to vote for this party or that party going into elections. There are a lot of people who don't participate in elections, but those who do, a certain percentage of them are strategic. And I think that those strategic voters, whether you're talking about the suburban community, whether you're talking about the communities that went for Trump big in the last election, they tend to be shifting
Bigly.
towards Democrat, bigly. They tend to be shifting towards Democrats in this election. The historical trend seems to be that when a president takes office, the first midterm election, they tend to lose that office. And I don't think this is going to be outside of that general trend. The question for me isn't necessarily whether or not Democrats take back the House. I think they'll take back the House even with the redistricting, because I think they perform well enough. The question is whether they take the Senate. And that requires not only a good wave, but also good candidates. And then we can talk about Senator Totenkopf and all the other fantastic options we're putting forward this campaign season. But I think right now, generally speaking, I'm actually quite encouraged by Democrats' odds. And I'm also encouraged by the amount of splitting Trump has in the Republican Party, despite the fact that like 18 votes from Republicans on a piece of legislation, they didn't even want to come forward for a vote. That does speak about what Democrats could do if they took back the House and Senate legislatively, if they could force it, if they could say hold a Republican priority hostage, or to make that more politically sensitive, do a funzie. I don't know, whatever you want to call it to make it sound more diplomatic. But I think that I feel quite bullish right now.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
That's a great way to feel. Let's keep going in reverse order that we did the first segment. And Kalinda, what are your thoughts on the situation? Are you as bullish as Dylan?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, the redistricting does have me worried, but I feel like at this point, Donald Trump is just that Iran war thing is that became, I mean, from the start, I think basically like maybe about a week into it, maybe not even that, became pretty obvious that it was a huge shit show. It was not going to be a quick in and out thing like you thought that it was. He doesn't, I don't know. He vastly overestimated that. And if that is still going like by September, then that's not going to help him. It's already been really bad. And I don't even know like about the gas prices. I feel like Trump at this point feels to me like Bush, like Bush 2 did towards the end of his term, where at the end of that election, you just kind of knew that it was inevitable that whoever ran for president in 2008 was going to beat him. It didn't matter who it was. It was just so easy for Obama to sail in there and win. And in some ways, Biden winning because of COVID was kind of like that too. But I mean, yeah, as far as the Senate stuff goes, I mean, like, I'm hopeful, although there are some things that I am worried about. I really hope that El Sayed doesn't win in Michigan because I'm not sure that he is the strongest candidate to put up against the Republican. Seems like the polling indicates that he's probably the weakest of the three candidates. I like McMurrow, but unfortunately, I don't know that she's going.
What is the polling in Michigan right now? I haven't looked at it recently. I know McMorrow dropped after her interview with Hutch. Hutch is tanking her chances. Let's see. McMorrow, Saeed. Looks like McMorrow is in third after Stevens and El Sayed. I don't know. This is from June 1st, so I think El Sayed might win.
He seems to have a really good chance at winning, maybe at winning there, and the way in which he markets himself as, like a Christian, and the fact that he actually seems like he's a real Christian, not like Donald Trump, who is basically a fake Christian. I think that would probably help him quite a bit with Texas voters, and he's done a really good job of deflecting the weird attacks, the culture.
Hey, Josiah, $10 says, hey, how does Joe define populism? Wait, no one here is Joe. Who's Joe? Were you asking about from that other panel? You motherfucker. From like that other time you asked? Oh, God. I love you, buddy.
What are your thoughts on the way the Democrats are shaping up with the midterms and the future beyond that?
Yeah, no, I agree with Kalinda, especially, and Dylan as well. There's a lot of room on the table for us to make some really strong plays in places that we otherwise might not have if Trump weren't as bad as he were. So that is heartening. It's funny because you mentioned Tallarico. And our tweet of the week was Stephen Miller called him trans, and the Democratic Party responded, "Shut the fuck up, you ugly troll," or something like that.
That
It
was
was
so
brilliant.
good.
It was
That's
so
the
good.
energy.
And so, yeah, I love that. I feel like we're taking control of our messaging a lot better this go around. It's not great. It's not where we need to be, but I like that we're not as reactionary to the right-wing media bulldozing machine as we had been going into 2024. So, that is really heartening. I kind of want to go back to your original question, though, of like, do we try to engage with the moderates, or do we try to bring in the super ultra left or the tankies or whatever the case is? I gotta say, like, I really hope that if we walk away with anything from this conversation, it is that there's really no saving those people, the super ultra left, single issue voter kind of folks who didn't even turn out to vote for Kamala Harris, but still somehow don't see how they're complicit in Trump being in office right now. I think those people are so diametrically opposed to democracy that there's really we shouldn't even really put the effort into trying to appease them or kowtow to them, or yes, it's a genocide, okay, sure, it's not going to do anything to really bring them over to our side. I was telling somebody the other day, it's kind of like if you look at like Hassan and Destiny, for instance, you might think they're like back in the day we used to be like Michael Jackson and Prince, like who would win between Michael Jackson and Prince, and it's kind of like that, like who would win if you put, if you look at like Hassan versus Destiny. But to me, it's like at least Michael Jackson and Prince were on parallel tracks trying to advance, the cause of good pop music, but it's perpendicular when it comes to the super ultra lefties like Hassan. They're on a perpendicular track. Everything they're doing is literally to oppose, moving forward or moving the Democratic Party ahead. So I think that once we start to kind of excise, not them, but just our attempts to try to, be malleable to bring them into the tent, I think we'll do so much better moving forward. Hi, Kitty. So like that's the one thing I hope we take away is that, in sales and in marketing, it's all about keeping the customers that you already have. So I think it's more about doing the canvassing, doing the work, getting people out to vote, as opposed to, trying to engage a group of folks who aren't in any way interested in trying to help us take back this government. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents.
Sophie,
If I'm
someone in
not
my chat said she doesn't even live here, like in Mean Girls.
I vote.
I know,
I'm from
I
North
know.
Carolina.
Yeah, I know. You're doing more work than like 50 normal non-American voters combined anyway. So like,
Oh, thanks, Orville.
Sophie, I was going
appreciate
to follow up and ask, aren't you yourself fairly progressive, somewhat left? How do you feel
Yeah.
about the fact that your strategies sort of pushes a little bit of your ideology out of the mainstream or the because I'm in the same position where, I believe in a fairly far left, economic and social message, but at the same
Mhm.
time, the people that are advocating for a lot of my views are doing it so poorly and advocating for so many other bad ideas that I feel a little bit politically homeless where I'm almost advocating against my own beliefs and system and politics in order to prevent a much worse political force from taking hold. Do you feel
Mm.
that way, or do you feel like you
Yeah,
have to sort of code switch even a little bit?
yeah. I mean, I have felt that way. I think that what maybe has moved.
to be clear, the reason why she might be more Hassan bad than your average person in online politics is because it's with DGG. That's like the Destiny canvassing thing, which is really good work, by the way. But like, if you're like, why is she talking about Hassan more than I would expect them to? You know, it's from a top-down thing that is ultimately an anti-Hassan platform. So not that you shouldn't be anti-Hassan when he fucks over Democrats. Just if you're wondering why it's being brought up more than you would otherwise think, it's like, wait, is this Hutch? No, it's it's DGG. So
franchise and make us stay home. And so that's one of the things where when you see it play out, when you see that people stayed home and then somehow Trump is in office again after we saw what happened the first time around, it just lets you know like there's no choice this time. You can't sit home. You can't act like your inaction is going to actually help the causes that you profess to give a shit about. You care so much about Israel, Palestine, and yet, who is doing more to harm that cause now than the person who might have gotten into office if you got off your ass. And so I think that's one of the things that's helping me. I had a really interesting.
guys, I'm not throwing her under the bus. You're just asking why is she talking about Hassan? It's because it's DGG. And for the record, collapitalism, Hassan fucked over the Democrats. No, he didn't personally make the Democrats lose, but he fucked over a bunch of Democrats insofar as he drove voter apathy. So fuck him. Yeah.
Kind of used every time he gets up, on a stage, he has to mention something about trans and taking away trans rights. And so we need to, anything he hates, we need to go hard and show we love it. And my friend was kind of like, hey, listen, like, yes. And you also kind of want to look at the fact that, it's not as much of a shoe-in as we like to think it is. I think we were at a point where we're like, oh, there's no way Hillary could lose. Oh, there's no way Kamala could lose. So I think it's a little like that right now, where it's like Trump's so bad, the Iran war, all the stuff that he said he was going to do and he didn't do, and affordability and all this. There's no way we could lose, but to put up one of those kind of I guess niche or pigeonholing kind of identity politics kind of an issue would certainly make it a little bit more difficult to make it as much of a shoe-in as it could be if we just kind of attack the larger issues, kind of address the populism of it all. And so I thought that was really interesting because he was like, listen, if we can get in office, let's just win the fucking midterms, then we can do what we can to try to put some additional trans rights in some kind of a pork bill or in some kind of spending bill. Or there's just so much more we can do if we get the power back to actually help the communities that we do care so much about.
And demonstrate that we can do
Yeah.
something with it and then earn
Yes.
that right to say, hey, this is an issue that our people care about. And
Exactly.
when
But
people's stomachs
yeah.
are full and their jobs are going well and they're getting paid more, then they'll say, hey, yeah, sure, freedom for other people too.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that he kind of grounded me in that. And so, it just again makes me want to fight even harder just to get people out to the polls. Let's get it going. That's really where it starts.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Soy Pill, if you could, say your thoughts on the Democratic Party, where they currently stand and where they might be ending up by the time we get to the midterms. What do you think is the...
And then we'll open it up for open discussion.
Yeah, short term, I mean, we're killing it. Like, basically, we have to stand around to do basically nothing, and Trump is shooting himself in the foot constantly. And so it's hard to look at what's happening now and credit it to, like, we should be good, guys. We did it, All right, like, we're going to win. We're winning all these elections, because that's awesome, and we're doing good work, and there's mostly good messaging. But what I'm afraid of is that what's being fought for, especially in the center-left area of the Democratic Party, is like return to normal and then let's start making things better. And that's good. That's what I want, because things are so bad under Trump right now that just literally just stopping that and doing nothing else would just be a huge improvement. But when you look at that Democrat polling that Dylan's talking about, where we're polling worse, the party itself is polling worse than Republicans. Like, why the fuck is the perception of Democrats so bad? It's because I don't think there is this focus on the long-term, more existential issues, and I don't think there's enough lip service being paid to things like climate change, which people are constantly dooming about, like job complete, like eradication, white-collar job eradication from AI, like these things that are going to be harming everyone. Like it's like affordability, gas prices, all these things that are going to, disseminate out into these larger bodies of demographics. It's like, oh, this is the issue that no one's addressing, and I feel disaffected. And so we can win based on a pendulum swing from how bad Trump is, but if we don't capitalize on those things, long term, it's going to swing back again. All you need is the Democrats to get back in power in the midterms and, kind of meander and twiddle their thumbs and be like, okay, guys, look, we're stepping closer to the left here. And then, bam, a big fucking crisis hits, and we've got like 20% unemployment or some fucking thing, like something crazy. And then some populist on the right's going to be like, it's because the Democrats did it, Trump too, or whatever. And that's it. Now it swings back, and we got even worse fascism. And so I think that we're doing good, and we're not doing nearly enough. There needs to be more, like, Democrats, like, long-term strategy. And it's hard because I don't know if doing that would sabotage the midterms for us. So maybe this is the thing where it's like, okay, get in office, win the midterms, and then we can figure that out and start talking about those long-term issues. But you look at, people like to shit on populists, but populists are, I think, good at this. Like, Bernie Sanders is like, look, climate change is an existential threat. Healthcare is a human right. We need to give people these things. And Democrats are on board with that now in a lot of ways. I don't think they're hammering it in enough that I feel like I'm being heard when I freak out about this stuff. And, it's good that we have these populists, or at least like further left people in the party who are pushing us more towards that. I think we wouldn't talk about healthcare the way we talk about it today if not for Bernie in 2016. And I want more of those people in the Democratic Party. It's hard because, Sophie shits on Hassan, and I rightfully will shit on Hassan for the same things probably, which is like he's a total fucking, fuck Democrats whenever it matters, like in the general election. But if that person's going to throw a bunch of like, weight behind progressives like Bernie Sanders, who I agree with, who's going to push the party left, I'm like, fucking yeah, let's take all your money and time and audience and shove it into those people who might put us closer to dealing with the issues that I think are more prevalent, that are going to affect more people, that are beyond stop Trump and get us back to normal. But like, hey, where are we in 10 years? Where we have a country that's a little more, socialized and a little more like uplifting of the people that really need help in the same way Europe might do it. So yeah, I think we're doing good. We're doing about 40% of what I think we need to be doing right now.
Excellent.
Yeah, we need to be grabbing that tug of war rope and just pulling it back hand over fist while the Republicans are weak, and we need to determine what the modern democratic identity looks like. It does feel to me that we are still scrambling for that identity and what it's going to be, what that cohesive, especially national identity looks like.
Yeah, and actually, I did want to say, because you just reminded me, Sophie's point about like the guy calling, or the I think it was Polina from the DNC called Stephen Miller like an ugly fuck or whatever. And it's like, why did that do so well? Like, why is everyone capitalizing off like that energy? And for years and years and years, we hear the correct thing from resist libs all the way to everyone now saying, hey, this guy's a fucking fascist. He's trying to take away your healthcare. He's trying to deport all these like people who are here and not hurting anyone, and also legal immigrants, and he's fucking with your rights. And you're treating it like this, like, like the Chuck Schumer thing, like, oh, like we got to work with them. It's like, no, like every day your Democratic politician should be like, these people are fucking fucking evil and want to destroy you, because that's what they're doing at this
Yes.
point. It is just like the worst thing ever. It's like the worst cases. They're pushing for fascism. And so when you say Trump is Hitler, and then you're not treating him like Hitler, people are like, well, hold on, like, is it that bad? And there's these mixed messages and there's this discohesion. But like, the truth is, we're getting fucked right now. And it can't just be like, oh, that bad guy in office. It's like, this is fucking 5-alarm fire. Let's fight back. So when people treat it like that, when Gavin Newsom comes out and says like, fuck you, I'm redistricting my whole state to steal your fucking votes, because even though I tried to get rid of gerrymandering, you wouldn't do it. You're goddamn right, I'm going to steal your fucking seats. Fuck you. You don't get any power. That's what we need to be doing right now. Everyone needs to be doing that. Which was like the whole point of the video I released yesterday. It's like, fuck woke 1. We're woke 2 now. We're dark woke. So
Well,
Yeah.
building
When they
building
go
off of-
high, we go to hell now. Yeah.
Sure. I'm
I
curious.
I oh my can I respond
Yeah,
to any
absolutely.
of
Go
that?
ahead, jump in. Yeah, of course.
I mean, I don't know, Soypill. You and I probably just fundamentally don't agree anyway. Like, if you want to try pushing the party left, that's fine, I guess. But like, Hassan is only okay with those candidates up until they win the primary, and a
Okay.
lot of the candidates that he endorses are candidates that are like in fucking deep blue places or what have you, which is kind of stupid. And then like and then he's completely useless once it comes to the general election.
Yeah.
Like, if Plattner were to lose, and obviously I know Plattner's not going to lose, but if he were to lose and it was a different candidate, Hassan would not be out there cheerleading that candidate.
yeah, he would
Because
not be
he
cheerleading
only
Mills,
cares
yeah.
about candidates that pass his narrow purity test, because
Mhm.
he's obsessed with Gaza, and that's all that he cares about right
Yeah, I don't
now,
disagree
or
with that at all,
Medicare
though.
for
But
all
but
or
again,
whatever,
I've
but-
had this debate like a million times, which is like, all right, but if he is going to promote a guy who's going to win and help that Democrat, just because it's the only one he will, and he's a hypocrite and he won't help us when it matters, he won't vote blue no matter who, whatever. Like, I'll still take the help for the person I still want to win, right? Like, why not? Don't give him anything. Don't fucking pay money to his platform. Don't say, okay, here's your like speaking event, because fuck you. You're gonna like stab us in the back when it matters in the general election. But you know, when it's like, all right, this is
Well-
beneficial, I'll do the Operation Barbarossa and let the Soviets go and fuck up Berlin, well, so I don't have to have as many Americans die. Like, yeah, why not? And then we can do the Cold War later. So
The only other issue there, though, is that like I worry, and maybe we'll find this out. This is why I said partially I really hope that El Sayed doesn't win, because Hassan is the perfect vector with which to attack him with, because this guy campaigned with him, and Fox News loves shitting on Hassan, and Hassan has so much bad baggage.
is
And
he
it is-
the
right now, most
perfect
Americans
vector?
don't know-
80% of people don't know who he is. Like, he's going to be attacked for
I-
being a
yeah,
Muslim.
yeah.
He's going to be attacked for the
Yeah,
doctor
yeah.
stuff. He's going to be attacked for his progressive
I know
politics.
that they don't
but
know
like,
who he is, but they're you know what? No, Americans didn't know who like people that were used to attack Obama were either, and like, yeah, that didn't like work in terms of him losing, but it did help turn a lot of people against Obama, because Republicans' brains were broken when Obama like won the presidency, and then you had the Tea Party and all that other insane shit. But like, I don't know. I don't. You know that they love to do this guilt by association shit, right? It doesn't
Sure.
matter if nobody knows who Hassan is. All they have to do is just see all the crazy shit that he has said about America, about how much he loves China, about all of this stuff. That's kind of like listen, obviously El Sayed is up to like it's fine for him to do that. And to some extent, like, sure, I guess it's fine to like work with Hassan. Although I don't know that it's a good idea. I guess I don't think mainstream Dems or
did
people
not
like
think this
Alyssa
would be a
Slotkin
Hassan debate, by
should
the way,
really
but
be
it's
like,
happening.
or Mallory McMorrow should be bothering going on these podcasts that are obviously hostile. Like fucking like when Slotkin went on Breaking Points and the entire interview was just her getting purity tested about Gaza for however long
Yeah.
that lasted.
I think she's
You
mad.
know,
This
like
is not
that
crying
kind of stuff
energy
is just
capitalism.
real dumb, and I don't really think that it is at all useful or helpful. Really,
From
like
Laurel
if
and
candidates,
Matt
Well, that's
Bernstein.
what again. That's
yeah.
what I said. Like,
Yeah.
if you think this is only going to hurt you by going on like a left wing podcast and they're just going to attack you before like you even are up against a Republican, or if you are, it's like, why aren't you attacking the Republican with this much energy? Yeah, okay. Don't give them that. Don't give them the time of day. Don't go to their interviews. Don't pay them that lip service. Just be like, okay, like, thanks if you want to endorse. Thanks if you want to canvass for me. And if you don't, go fuck yourself, right? Like, I'm fine with that. But the idea that like, all right, we need to excise, like, say, hey, don't canvass for Graham Plattner, even though it's going to be Graham Plattner versus Collins, because we don't like your politics, or you're going to backstab if it was Mills in the general. But okay, but it's not Mills, and he is helping. So why would I not take the help when I can get it? Like, this doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it
Dylan, I'd
doesn't
like to
sound like he's. Oh yeah.
Dylan, I wanted to bring you in. Are you concerned about El Sayed and how much he's leaned on Hassan? Are you concerned about Hassan and leaning on the left too hard in general? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think Al Sayed's general policy agenda is something that I align myself with when it comes to like his housing program and stuff like that. I'm sure I could find things about his policy agenda that I disagree with, but I came
Ukraine.
into uh, we're actively engaged in discussions, and I can't say much more. But like when it comes to this type of work, like I want to see candidates with energy. I want to see candidates when they run into the general and you're like they represent something, right? Now that doesn't need to be something that I align with, right?
Hey, capitalism, don't make fun of a room, all right? I got a shitty setup too, and we all got to start somewhere, all right? One day I'll have an actual stream room.
Invigorates me and my like what gets me to canvas, what gets me out there. But I'm also not the person running in her district. I'm also not somebody that's from her community. And so when I listen to Saeed talk about housing inequity, when I listen to Saeed talk about these things, it does not surprise me that he is the person who is ahead in this. He's also very willing to take the hardline view that is now the majority of the Democratic base's view on what's going on in Gaza, the bombing of Gaza, the destruction of Gaza, and because he's willing to take that position so openly, so strongly, while the other candidates look like they're doing some sort of balancing act, it allows him to come off as somebody who stands 10 toes down. It allows him to come off as somebody who stands for something, and it allows him to show himself as, hey, we're somebody who's actually offering a bolder vision. And I'm not saying McMorrow isn't offering anything. I'm not saying Stevens aren't offering anything, but that's not the read somebody gets if you're in the primary watching it from the sidelines, right? If you're in the district and you're saying, who could allocate the most money to fund this local bridge construction project, right? I don't hear a lot about that specifically from the Saeed campaign. Maybe in the Stevens campaign, those types of discussions would be more plentiful. Maybe the type of people that are aligned to them are more, attuned to that. But that's not what seems to win primaries right now. It certainly isn't the case in the Republican primary. Maybe it is different in the Democratic primary. It's a different party. But I think that these general trends for what motivates primary victories is a sign of the times, more of a sign of even the Republican Party.
So you think it's more important that we just have Democrats that stand on business more than it is?
I think it's
what they
important that we
lean-
have a message. I think it's important that we offer a future, and I think it's important that whoever wins, that they be able to do that cognizantly, and they be able to defend it. And that's going to be my question about Saeed. Is he going to be able to defend that in a general running against people who have radically different beliefs than what he has? When you talk about Stevens and McMorrow, you're speaking to a Democratic voter base. Then you got to go speak to independents, right? And this is the United States. There are certain voters that will not care about who he is, and there's other voters that will care. In Iowa, in the Democratic primary, you had people finding out Pete Buttigieg was a homosexual, and that was not too many primaries ago, and being like, wait, what? I had no clue. I'm pulling out. Him being Saeed running in a general election is going to be an inherent handicap. It is also a handicap that the other two people, this is the United States, okay? I'm just being free. I grew up with people who live in countrysides, right? There being two women, like every single side of this, like people talk about James Telrico so favorably, not only because he's a good candidate, but because he's a picture perfect candidate for what you would want to run in Lily White, Texas. And so I want candidates that no matter what structural or biases like a voter might be going into the voting booth with are going to carry so much energy in such a time of poor leadership that they're going to blow it out of the water. If Saeed can do that, then I'll back him 100%. I also have, of course, red lines on the issue of Ukraine and other stuff that needs to show that you'd be worth having in the Senate in the first place. But, at the end of the day, like, I think that Saeed has energy. And I think McMorrow, Stevens being able to take the primary back, which is currently seems to be Abdul's to lose, would be a good sign of that.
Sophie, do you have any thoughts on this particular election when it comes to Saeed versus his opponents and whether he...
Real quick, thank you, Totally Real Cat Girl, for the $5. Republicans being outed is consistently good for gay rights. The Democratic strategy should be to find as many right-wing boy motors as possible. Yeah, and I really don't like that people point this out as like you're being homophobic when you call, what's his name, Lindsey Graham gay. It's like, no. we're saying there's nothing wrong with being gay, but it's funny to point out how fucking homophobic you are when you're so clearly gay. And that should be fine. Come over to our side and accept gay people. And yeah, point out that people are gay, not as an insult, but just as a like, you fucking hypocrite, you suck dick, and that's fine. Come suck dick on the right side of things and stop pretending like it's okay to be gay on the right wing when they chastise you for adopting a baby, you fucking dipshit Dave Rubin.
Of him is going to come from Fox News lifting him up as this, Cuban communist, only cares about Hamas, brings terrorists on his stream kind of dude.
Says America deserved 9/11, all the
Right.
worst hits.
Exactly. So I mean, I just feel like that's one of those things where if you want to look back at like when Obama was running, and as soon as they tried to say, "Oh, your minister is very anti-America. Your minister is saying that black people are so mistreated and F white people and this and that." And he immediately was like, "Let me distance myself. Let's go ahead and he fucking won." So I think there is merit to looking at the company you keep. And I feel like that's something that he should probably just keep in mind. Like it's not a good look.
Wow, there are almost 300 people in here. Hi, everyone.
Like it's worth keeping your enemies close if they're helping you advance your cause. Like it reminds me of how even today you're hearing people say like, "Oh, well, Taylor Lorenz was right when it came to this issue or whatever." And it's like, no, but if she didn't weigh in at all, this thing would still be true. Like it would still be true that uh there is racism implicit in how we look at cell phone usage and whatnot in schools, or whatever the case is. So I feel like there's kind of the same kind of overlap here. Like, sure, just because Hassan, might be right, or it might be like helpful in this one tiny little instance. If you took him out of the equation altogether, kind of like Dylan said, like if fuck him, if he's a non-issue, if you took him out, would he really impact the decision either way? And I kind of feel like if you look at the pros and cons of Hassan, the cons stack up too much for me to feel like he's valuable even for the people who we want to help, or that he is backing, or that he is supporting. So I
Well,
just don't
Sophie,
see
I think that's a good point that you're kind of like
Yeah.
synthesizing between you and Dylan, which is like Hassan isn't as big of a draw. Like when people argue, like, should we do this? Shouldn't we do this? Should we let him in? Like ultimately, what matters more is what Dylan is saying: is how much energy are they driving? Can they overcome the detriment, or like not really make it so the nudge up matters all that much? If you can run as a mayor of New York with the endorsement of a guy who said America deserved 9/11, and that doesn't make you lose, then like you're a fucking good candidate who has good ideas that people are looking towards. Now, whether or not Hassan like boosted Mamdani or made Mamdani like lose 4 jillion votes, it's hard to say. You can't really track these things, but like people aren't coming out of exit polls and being like, hey, you know what? I was going to vote for him and I liked his policies, but he shook hands with that guy who said that awful thing about 9/11. It's like, no, they're coming out and they're like, this guy's going to make housing better. This guy's going to do the grocery store thing. This
Right.
guy's going to reduce
Wait, can
costs.
ask
I
you a
like that
question
guy.
though,
Yeah.
Soy? Can I ask you a question on this, Soy?
Yeah.
If, let's say it was different. Let's say instead of it being Hassan and Mamdani had like one public interaction that we could see that was actually public facing and meant to seem like it had campaign purposes during the primary, before the general, when he, the idea is you run to your center, but it's also a New York City election, so it's different. But let's say he didn't do that, and let's say he instead was like, Mamdani, we're going to do speaking events, and you know how Trump does rallies, we'll have Hassan come out before Mamdani comes out, and he, Hassan comes out and he does his speeches.
Like it was
In
like
a
he was tied
scenario
at the
like
hip
that-
to the campaign, you mean?
Yeah, like I wouldn't say like necessarily tied to the hip, but he was part of the speaking tour. He's like the build-up act almost. In a scenario like that, I think he becomes a weight, especially in somewhere
sure.
like New York, where there's going to be like, why is the guy who said America deserved 9/11
Also,
seemingly
if he's
having
like the
so much
vice
I just-
president to the
influence?
presidential campaign, that becomes a lot different. Where it's like, this isn't a referendum on the policies of this
I-
guy. Like you're now the person with this candidate, and your policies are going to come into question. I agree with that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean,
I just-
ultimately,
I
I think like
also-
I just want to finish this thought quickly. I think one interaction ultimately in and of itself is not usually enough to sink anyone. It wasn't enough about Luis Farrakhan and, Obama, Nick Fuentes and Donald Trump. I don't think it will be Hassan and Abdul. Of course, these are all very different types of figures, but whatever stink someone might have, depending on your perspective, like candidates have been touched by it once. And as long as you let it touch you once or hit you on the back just a few times and you don't keep them at the hip, you don't make them your own personal like Rudy Giuliani, it seems to be fine. You can take their supporters and move on. Donald Trump's first interview, who was it with? His major
Alex
interview
Jones?
of the campaign. It was with Alex Jones. He took his audience, kept going, became president.
Kalinda, you had a point that you wanted to make. What were you?
Real quick. Thank you, Wawa, for the $2. Can you be today's token Canadian? You bought it. You earned it. And thank you, username 73736, for saying that you were soying out. Me too.
Oh, but Mamdani didn't even like win as overwhelmingly as maybe one might have expected him to. But I don't think that has anything to do with Hassan. I would like to also remind everyone that on the debate stage, when presented with the quotes that Hassan said about 9/11, Mamdani like basically disavowed him and he condemned that sentiment. And then when Hassan tried to go to Mamdani's New York victory party
Right.
and get into the VIP section, he was told, "You're not on the list, go away." And so he had to go hang out downstairs with all the plebs. So, I mean, yeah, Hassan claims now that he has Mamdani on speed dial and shit, but I haven't seen Mamdani interact with or say anything about him. So I don't know that Mamdani is really necessarily a great example. I think it's different because El Sayed is not only doing like events with Hassan, but then he also went on I think Matt Bernstein's show to do an interview with Hassan or with El Sayed. Or he went on Matt Bernstein's show, and all they did was spend the entire time just talking about how great Hassan was and how people need to stop attacking him.
Okay, well,
I don't
what will you say if he wins the primary, though? Like, are you going to say that all that stuff didn't matter, or that it helped, or like, what's going to be your view like after that?
I don't know if that's going to matter for the primary. My worry is that the Republicans are going to use it to attack El Sayed, and that it'll make it harder for him to win the election.
Maybe, but honestly,
Because
Republicans are going to do whatever they can regardless, and I don't know if that's going to be the like kill shot to like make this guy go down.
I don't know if it'll be the kill shot, but also really I'm worried in general about El Sayed. It's not even necessarily just about Hassan, just because he seems to be the one who does the worst in the polling up against the Republican. So I don't know, like that's a bit concerning to me because Michigan is not like a deep blue place, and there's quite a bit of worries there. Because like whoever wins that primary is going to need to appeal to a bunch of different people, and there are certain groups that El Sayed might turn off. I do agree with Dylan though. Like, yes, it would be nice to get more, like center-left Democrats who can be more firebrandy and who can sell a message, in the same way that Obama did, whilst also being unapologetically liberal instead of being like super far left or progressive or like or even they can be progressive. I don't care about that, but like being basically democratic socialists and whatnot. Because I don't think that is necessarily going to be a super popular thing. I don't know if Plattner has called himself a democratic socialist or not, but yeah, although that's a whole other thing. Graham Plattner.
Yeah, we'll get into Plattner in a minute, but Sophie, did you want to jump in there on that? It seemed like you had something to say.
Curious about how you would answer that question, Soypill. Like if he did win, then would you credit that to being largely in part
not even
Hassan,
largely,
or
an incredibly small part. All I would say is I think that this guy did not probably hurt that much compared to what people might be worried about. I think he's got a huge audience of people. Fair chunk of those people are going to live in whatever district they need to vote for, and I would rather him be using that platform to promote the people that I think are good and to beat Republicans. And I don't think it's more of a liability. We'll see if it turns out like every single candidate in a general that wins, goes to the primary and wins, is going to just be hyper attacked by Republicans, and they all lose based on that metric, which I think you could drag. You could see like exit polling, like why didn't you vote for this person? I just don't think that's going to happen. I think it's marginal. It's a guy with a big audience. That audience is full of younger people that usually don't vote. I want those people to vote for Democrats versus Republicans, and if it's his Democrats, which he's very choosy with, fuck him. But if it is his Democrats in the general, and he gets them to vote for them, awesome. I think that's probably a good thing. But it's not going to be like, whoa, did he lose because of this? Like, did Kamala lose because Hassan didn't fucking endorse her? No, but fuck him for not doing it, like he should. And I want those people to vote, so.
Well, it's just I honestly thought you would say more so that you would feel that he won despite it, because you were saying that it's almost like Hassan is like a pressure test or like a purity test in his own right. Like he's the one who's saying, or it just sounded like you said that.
When I said that,
for
about
Mamdani to
Mamdani,
have
because
won
it's like,
despite him.
in New York, if you're trying to, like,
So-
you're doing an anti-9/11 sort of, like, campaign, right? Like,
Sure.
that's going to probably
Sure.
alienate a lot of people. But also, Mamdani's a Muslim. I don't know if you guys remember how fucked it was for Muslims in New York
Oh,
in 2001.
yeah. In New
But, like,
York.
the fact that, like, a Muslim can win mayor is amazing. How far we've come. I think that would be, like, the biggest fucking stabbing point for any attack. Like, Republicans tried it. They're like, does everyone forget 9/11? We're gonna elect a Muslim. It's like he fucking did it. Like, Muslims, like, as a whole, like, it's in one of the fucking pillars to blow up buildings in New York. It's fucking ridiculous. So yeah, like,
Right.
did it really?
Despite
I don't know if
somebody-
it's
having somebody
despite.
backing him who said
Well,
that, you know,
yeah,
who-
I think that would be
you know,
more of a
we
stabbing
deserve
point.
9/11.
But I think, like, just
But
being
so-
Muslim is
but
bigger
let's-
of a stabbing point than
I
Hassan
think
himself in that
Mamdani-
comment.
Let's
Makes sense.
extrapolate
Saying
that out
himself
to Syed
that
or anybody else
matters.
that Hassan is backing. Like I think that's important to know then. Like that if Hassan is backing someone and that is the test that this person was actually a really good candidate, that they won despite him, then
Well, that's not what
why
I was saying.
even-
I was saying specifically that comment and specifically in New York. But I think a much greater hurting thing for Mamdani is that he is Muslim. That is going to be a big sticking point for a lot of people because of Islamophobia, right? So what I'm thinking is, if I were to calculate this out, and it's very hard to, I think probably Hassan drives more people for the candidates he cares about to vote than he does hurt people by being associated with them, if I had to guess. Because I think he's got this coalition of people. They usually don't vote because they're like, oh, nothing fucking matters. We're never going to get universal health care. And then he goes out and he's like, guys, vote for this person. It's like, okay, those young people go and vote. Cool. Versus like the people who try to use him to attack the Democratic candidate, if it's a Hassan person, it's like no one knows who this fucking person is. So he's mobilizing the people who all know who he is because it's in his audience, and the people who don't know who he is like, oh, he said a thing. Okay, but that's not Mamdani. Wait, who is this? Like, what do they do? They shook hands once? I don't know. I would guess that he's probably helping marginally more, he's hurting marginally. Ultimately, what matters more and what I want to focus on is not fucking Hassan Piker, is these candidates need to be fighters and have a resounding message that actually gets people to not give a shit about any of that stuff and to think, is this person going to be advocating for me and giving me the stuff I want? That's what I think matters.
Yeah,
I
think that's
just
where I'm landing.
I just want to make one thing, or like I guess to make something in particular clear. I think that all of this really depends entirely on where we are talking about. New York City is like an incredibly blue place. It is deep blue. It is very liberal. You're probably gonna find, it's like fucking San Francisco, where you like that's where you're gonna find like all like the wokies and like probably even like some number of socialists.
Thank you,
there or
Totally
what
Real
have
Cat
you.
Girl, and we're not done.
And I think
promise.
that that's a little bit different than someplace like Michigan, which is a purple state. And there are a lot of different people that a candidate might have to appeal to there in order to be able to win. Like there is a population of Jewish people there. There is a population of Muslim people there. And you're going to have to appeal to like certain groups. If you're a Democrat, you have to have like a broader coalition. And so I don't know how well Al-Sayed would necessarily be able to walk that line. Whereas, yeah, like, I don't know, maybe Mamdani would have lost a few more votes if he hadn't condemned Hassan, but I don't think that he would have lost the election either way because New York's still a deep blue place. Yeah, and a lot of Hassan's endorsed candidates also haven't won either. I mean, I'm sure you all saw that he was super mad on like I think last Tuesday when he lost, when like all the candidates that he endorsed didn't win. So yeah, it's not just about him either, by the way. Like it's more about the general question of should Democrats appeal more to the far left than like I guess the center. And obviously I think the answer is the center. Because like it seems in fact I'm sure everyone is familiar with that poll that I think 40% of people have negative views of the Democratic Party because they think or 40% of people think the Democratic Party is too liberal, and by that they mean too left because liberal is like a weird pejorative. Thanks Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh, but yeah, I
think
don't know.
what's interesting
But
about that poll, Kalinda, is that yes, if you look on a general, but when you break it down to the issues, it's a lot less obvious. If it's like What about healthcare? Like, no one is saying we need to meet in the middle on immigration, because right now what's happening is fucking insane, and we're sending ICE into cities like the Gestapo, and so that like becomes a lot
but
less clear.
that's
If you talk about healthcare, it's like, wait, hold on, no, I don't think we should be cutting all these millions of people. So like, it depends on what you mean
yeah,
by
of
the
course
center.
not.
It's definitely not the middle of what the Democrats stood for 2 years ago and the Trump now, and so I don't know like how much you can look at
What
that and
I
say like,
what I mean is that there was a like, and by the way, I don't think this is true of the Democratic Party. I think the issue is that there is a perception among people that the Democratic Party is too left, or that Kamala was too woke, even though I don't think that she was. And I
Yeah.
think that has more to do with messaging than what Democrats actually believe and what the majority of Democrats actually believe, for example. So
And
yeah,
who's
I don't
messaging, right?
yeah,
As
like
well as
for
the
example,
right-wing
I think
outrage
yeah,
apparatus.
yeah, like I don't think Democrats should abandon trans rights, but they don't necessarily need to say that like they're in favor of like trans women playing in competitive women's sports or whatever. Or like, yeah, it depends. They kind of gotta walk the line on the culture war stuff. But yeah, I don't really
that's
think
kind of
that
what the poll suggests,
yeah.
is like when you look specifically at the like table issues like economy and healthcare, there is no
Yeah.
preference for moving to the center. Like, it disappears completely in that poll.
Well,
I think
wait,
the same one we're
wait,
talking
hold
about.
on. What do you mean about like the healthcare thing? Like, for example, I think
What do
most
I'm
people
just
would probably
quoting the poll.
prefer
What do you mean?
a public option rather than Medicare for all,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
most
okay.
people don't want to outlaw private insurance, right?
Sure.
That's
But a
all I'm
public option
saying
is moving
is
left.
that
That's not moving center.
Joe Biden campaigned on a public option though. When I
Yeah,
say
but then he
moved,
didn't
what I
even
mean
like
is that
propose it or anything. Like,
yeah,
he didn't advocate
yeah,
for it
I
during
know.
the like that's moving left.
Because
Like, moving left would be like, hey,
I
everyone, we're doing it. Like, Nick Morrow is proposing us moving left by saying we want a public option. Al Saeed is saying we
when
want Medicare for all. That's even further left. That's like more progressive. But
yeah,
like,
yeah, I know.
this
That's
is not.
what I
Neither of those
mean,
are moving center.
though. No. When I say moving center, I don't mean that. What I mean, or I don't mean like, you know, like be like more conservative or whatever. What I mean is that I don't think that the Democrats need to like, you know, tout all this in like the democratic socialist stuff, or like the, you know, like it has to be Medicare for all. It can't be anything else like that.
Or
That kind
nothing.
of shit.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like I
So
think
rather
a
than
public
being
option is a good in between, because if you do look at polls, most Americans think the government should have some role in healthcare, and I think a public option is a good thing for that. Obviously, by the way, I think that if Biden had more room, he probably would have maybe brought that to the table, but he didn't, because it was really difficult for him to even get anything done as it was.
Well, okay. Well, what do you think is going center then? Is just like the difference between like what
I just
Democrats
what
were
I mean
3
is
years ago and what the progressives are saying. Moving center is like somewhere in between that, like a healthy middle, or like has nothing to do with the right. The right is not dictating what's center here.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, what I'm saying is that I think that when people like Hassan and all these other far leftist people say you have to run left-wing populist socialist candidates because inside every American is a secret socialist, or is a secret socialist birdie that's just waiting to hatch, but they just didn't know it because the consent has been manufactured, and that's why they think socialism is like, that's what I mean.
Okay,
I mean
gotcha.
that I don't think that we should roll with the assumption that this is true, because these policies don't actually seem to be as popular as as these particular people seem to think that they are. And I think that
at least from an ideological perspective, like maybe
yeah,
some
a
of the
more
specific
liberal,
ideas
like
can
you
appeal
can
to a
be
center.
solidly center left, liberal, even progressive. Obviously, Joe Biden was one of the most progressive, or like even like Gavin fucking Newsom. You know, like these people hate Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is like one of the most progressive governors in the history of the United States, right? Like he did a lot of really progressive shit. But these people hate him because he's not far left enough. That's all I mean when I say like you have to appeal to independents, and I would rather
Yeah.
that we appeal to
You're-
them than the fucking
Mhm.
super far left people who
Your
are super
I agree,
purity
Belinda.
testy.
Your critique isn't about necessarily progressivism or left policies, even economic. It's more about how we message that, and we shouldn't message that in an extremist way loaded with socialism and other ideological statements. We need to take those issues, and we can have progressive solutions and maybe economic left solutions, but they need to be spoken about in a way that appeals to centrists and average
Yeah, mostly like you have to, if you're going to do that. And you know, and by the way, I do think there is something to be said about like Bernie's more economic pop or like left populist messaging. I don't like populism because I think it's stupid, and it like let's blame everything on the billionaires, guys. Like, that is so stupidly reductionist. And unfortunately, I feel like to some degree, some people just don't, they just are populist and they don't present good policies, or like the policies that they do present aren't great, like wealth taxes and shit. But you could, like, somebody like Bernie or like someone like that could potentially appeal to rural voters, like in ways that Democrats haven't been able to. And I would
Yeah, and he
like to
has,
see
like,
that
when
tried.
Bernie went on Fox News, he was a big hit even on their side. Like I wondered when it happened when he was getting good play on Fox if the rich were shaking in their boots as Bernie got to speak a real populist or a meaningful message rather than a populist message to the
Yeah, you
right.
just don't, I don't know, like you can like kind of use populism somewhat. Just don't go full crazy with it, I guess. But I don't know if that, it's fine to like have that kind of messaging. I just also want real policies to be behind it and not just, oh my God, all of our problems are caused by the billionaires.
Yeah.
Well,
The
there
word
are
populism seems loaded to me from the start, where basically it
Mm.
means popular and dumb. Like that's kind of how it's used.
That
Is just
that's
like
how I would sum it up.
lowest common denominator. Yeah, that seems to be the way it's used, and so yeah, it's kind of baked into the way the word is used that it's negative. Kyle, you were saying something?
Well, I was going to say there are a couple candidates that we could talk about who've leaned on the more populist economic messaging, and they would be the aforementioned Graham Plattner.
It's crazy you guys are calling her a Republican. Guys, she's so clearly, like a liberal, like, a more IRI Destiny level liberal than me, because I'm more progressive than they are. But, like, guys, she's not a fucking Republican. Jesus Christ.
Messaging style, but without the baggage. It would seem that as of now, the various things that have attempted to weigh Plattner down, the sexting, the Nazi tattoo, he seems to still be the. I haven't seen any signs that his base is turning away from him. Dylan, I wanted to get your thoughts on Plattner and his various baggage that comes with him.
Sure. I also just wanted to quickly say, anytime you see a Republican Senate candidate go on Benny Johnson's podcast as somebody who is part of the Tenet Media scandal, Russian paid info op, this is somebody who's constantly saying crazy stuff. You can go to any number of right-wing commentators say wild stuff on their radio programs, on their shows all the time. You never hear, what scandal have you guys heard of? Oh, this guy went on this right-wing podcast, talked to this podcaster. It's not a scandal over there. And so I just don't know how much, like, realistically Hasan can actually drag down a candidate in this media environment, right? In New York, because of the uniqueness of a statement, it would be unique. It's like having Vosh speak in Tel Aviv. Like, I imagine that, like, just the uniqueness of your previous statements are going to lead to certain negativity. But besides that, when it comes to Graham Plattner specifically, look, Graham Plattner comes off as incredibly authentic. He comes off as a working class everyman. He is a United States veteran, and he is a combat veteran. He is not a behind the wire paperwork veteran. He is somebody who has seen it. And he has come forward with, like, he was an oyster farmer. That is Maine to its core. It's as oysters matter as much to Maine as, like, crab matters to Marylanders. And so there's just, like, so many aspects about his campaign combined with the messaging against the owner class, against the elite class, against the billionaire class, that seems to communicate quite well. He's also quite young. He's 41 years old. Susan Collins is going into her mid-70s. And so there's a lot of advantages when it comes to the Plattner campaign. Now, when it comes to disadvantages, I think somebody going and having an SS tattoo on their chest is not meta. It is not in favor of the campaign meta, I would say.
Not yet. That's
Then
only
you've got
wins.
the problem with all of the sexting, which is not good,
Myself a right
but
winger.
the relative, like, standard for, like, sex scandals in American politics right now is Epstein, and your staffer lights himself on fire, right?
And
So
even that won't necessarily break you.
that won't necessarily break you. I believe the man who was involved in the lighting woman on fire scandal, I believe he did ultimately lose To wasn't it that he lost to a YouTuber, if I remember correctly? Either way, he lost. So
What a world.
there is like a standard, there is like a line.
There's a
seems,
line.
there seems to be a line,
About
and
10
lighting,
feet
and,
above hell.
which
Unless
is like
you're
somebody getting
Trump.
lit on fire. There seems to be a line,
Oh my
unless you're Trump.
God.
And so I do think that there is a limit. And recent polling indicates that Graham Plattner's polling data has gone down. The last poll I saw had him within 2 points of Susan Collins, which at this point, so far out from the general election, you could look at that from a few angles. Number one, he's lost a lot of the lead that he needs to maintain. Or number two, you could look at it like, well, he's taken the worst of it and he's still not too underwater. So yippee. But historically, when it comes to Susan Collins in the polls, they have underestimated her election day performance. And so if we really want to do well in Maine, you might actually have to have a few points on Susan Collins, not just, tie with Susan Collins, not just, oh, we're ahead a point or two with Susan Collins. I mean, she's going off of quite a long list of like name recognition. I mean, everybody in the district knows her, and they don't necessarily just associate her with many of the things many the people in Maine's district are starting to associate with Graham Plattner. The question is, can Graham Plattner associate himself more with change, associate himself more with challenging what's happening in Washington, can associate himself more as a redemption story more than like the demons that he's carrying with himself right now. And that I do not know. What I do know is that his base loves him. They seem energized. Every time these scandals hit him, he fundraises like crazy off of it. He's raising more money off of these scandals than Susan Collins is. that seems to be the current state of affairs. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that Plattner's base is cultish, but they really like him. And I think they're gonna stick with him, and I think that might actually take him through to election day, despite the fact that Susan Collins, out of all of the people in the Senate coalition, outside of maybe Lisa Murkowski, is the least disagreeable Republican. That's not saying a lot, but is one of the least disagreeable Republicans. At the end of the day, it's Maine, and she's the one who could save the Senate majority for Republicans. And those two facts, when you speak to Plattner supporters, are unavoidable. So I think he's going to end up being the nominee. It's just whether or not once the primary's locked and we're solidly in the general, whether we got any more demons that are going to come out. I don't know what it's going to be next for Plattner. We find out that he also got a Maoist tattoo. We find out he's got all four sides of the political spectrum. I don't know, but we'll wait.
Dylan, do you think he did a good job synthesizing the Republican and the Democrat position where rape is about power and he's acknowledging rape culture, but he would also rape a home intruder? I think like what a Republican might do. Like, do you think that's a good way to bring in like independence?
I'm sorry. Is this a real thing he said?
Oh, do you guys not know about this?
Apparently.
No. What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like talking about rapes about power, which is true. So he's got the woke.
How do you report on that, Soy?
Yeah.
You report Graham Plattner would rape a robber or something. You put that in the title of an article. Nobody's gonna read that and say, well, now you're disqualified. Because they're just gonna read that and they're gonna be like, that's something I know. I'm gonna remember Graham Plattner's name now. He's the guy who would rape a robber. And so, whether that hurts him or helps him, I do not know, Soy.
Oh
It might fit into the no advertising is bad
Um,
advertising.
Yeah, no news is bad news.
I don't know how many people here agree or disagree with this. I don't know if there's anyone who actually thinks that Plattner is like a Nazi or whatever. Actually, Dylan, you probably can attest to this because I know that you've like probably interacted or seen soldiers like this or what have you. But my understanding is, at least, or things that I've been told to by people who are or were in the military in my audience, is that I don't think that Graham Plattner is a Nazi. I think that he was a edgy Marine, because Marines are very edgy, stupid kids who got drunk one night with all his buddies while they were in Croatia, and he went and got a Totenkopf tattooed on his chest. I think he knew what it was.
Croatia would be the place to do that, by the way.
Yes, yes, it would. I think he knew what it was. There's no way that he didn't. In fact, I believe that he even talks about this. This is like sort of like a military culture thing, particularly in the Marines. My friend who is in the military, showed me some pictures of like people in the Marine sniper squad posing with like the SS flag. And they're literally just doing it because they're fucking edgy and they're like, oh, Nazis, you know? Like they're not Nazis. They're just being like super edgelords about it. Like it's kind of like this weird ironic thing that they do. I assume that the same thing probably also happens in Ukraine, where like some people will wear like, you know, edgy shit on their like edgy like Nazi patches or whatever, not because they actually are Nazis, or things that are kind of like that. I think I've heard about that from some of the Ukrainians in my chat. I don't know if you've ever encountered that, Dylan, but I feel like it's the fact that he lied about it. And in some ways, I feel like he could have maybe just tried to, maybe trying to explain that would have been too much. I don't know. It seems like there are people who are brain broken on this. Some people who actually just think that he's a Nazi because he got the Totenkopf tattoo. But yeah, I don't know why he didn't think to remove that, or why he didn't think anybody would like that wasn't going to come out. There's shit in his Reddit posts. I mean, hopefully he'll win, I guess, but goddamn, it would not surprise me if more scandals come out. It just seems like one thing on top of the other with this guy. And apparently there are more women too, but the New York Times just kind of never said anything about the other women that were supposedly supposed to come out. It was just that one person who also happens to be a Conservative Heritage Foundation staffer. So, you know, make of that what you will. But yeah.
As for the thing about patches, I do want to just put out there, a patch is something you can just like put on a uniform and then take off. A tattoo is a tattoo.
I
I've met a
know.
lot of people and they got like patches and I'm like, that's an interesting patch. And it's like it's got like some old German symbolism, but then it's replaced all of like the really edgy parts with like Ukrainian symbolism, and it's like trying to meld these aesthetics, and somebody buys it off of a patch wall, they put it on their arm, they're just like, oh, that looks cool. And you're like, you meet these types of people and they do exist and they speak to that. I've never met somebody who's gotten a tattoo and was like, you know, I had zero clue what I was getting inked on my body.
Oh no, he totally.
And I didn't know, and I did not know for the preceding 12 years at any point
when cover-ups exist and tattoo removal exists. Exactly.
I don't believe it.
There's no
so
way.
I mean, like we know, like Connor's a liar. That's clear. But I mean, like that's also politicians, they lie. So you know, and also he's running to get Susan Collins. Has she ever lied? And so I guess is that the standard we're holding up to this story? Like we're already so deep in this shit. The question is it better for him to be a liar, or is it better for him to be a Nazi? I think probably it's the former here, that he knew what it was, or it didn't, or found out later and did not care. Because when you read those Reddit discussions that he had, and I did, hearing him saying like, man, I really like that Azov was putting a hurting on him using IDF style tactics. Good stuff. You know, the type of stuff that when you go down there and you read it and you would have posted on Twitter today, oh my God, the firestorm it would create. But in those discussions where he's going back and forth and saying all this stuff, he seems to be defending the idea of using defeated armies' symbols from a conquered army. The idea of like, well, we defeated the Nazis, so we can use their symbols. And this is kind of weird to think about, but it's actually in American military culture. The Apache helicopter. I mean, the Apache that's not you know, proper native English. You know, that comes from tribes
missile
that we wiped off the wiped off the map. A Tomahawk missile is another example of this. And so,
but who weren't on the wrong side of history though.
Well,
that's true, but I don't know if the Marines care as much about whether or not the symbol carries X or Y meaning. I would put out there that I don't see a lot of Marines with hammer and sickle tattoos, though. And I don't see a lot of them like taking Soviet iconography and putting that on, even though it's probably one of America's greatest achievements.
It sounds like he's pre-explaining when we find his Confederate flag. That's what it sounds like.
Honestly, I really do think that they're just being edgelords, and like, unfortunately, however you want to say about this, Nazi symbolism is more edgy than like the hammer and the sickle, because we just don't.
Too many soy boys ruined that.
Communism as bad as like Nazism. I mean, although it's not, like, obviously Nazism is worse than communism. Communism was still really fucking bad. You know, like the Soviet Union was really bad. They're like one rung down from badness from Nazism. So, but I don't know. I just think that like that seems to be it makes sense to me, and it lines up with the rest of his Reddit comments. A lot of that stuff was just insanely edgy, and like there was probably like some sort of weird internal logic to it. But maybe he didn't want to get rid of the tattoo because he knew what it was, and he was like, "Hey, you know, this is a fond memory or whatever. Me and my buddies." And I don't know. But I
worst
think it's
comment I
stupid
read
that
on
he
Reddit,
never thought
honestly,
to get rid of it. I don't know why
worst-
he never thought. Yeah.
The worst thing he said was, if I was gonna fight in any war, it would be the Indian Wars. Really, out of all of them, out of all of
Yeah.
our wars, and he used the term Indian Wars. Okay, that's what he said.
Did
you
he say
know,
why?
just
Because it would be
don't
easier
kill the
because of
messenger
the
here.
technological mismatch, or he just really wants to like scalp Indians? Like he really likes Blood Meridian or something.
I think he
He-
really
he
liked that
seemed-
one Bugs Bunny cartoon. I don't know.
Oh
know
yeah,
what
yeah.
it was.
I know what you're talking about.
I mean, he seemed to like just really think that war was like, I guess, fun or interesting or cool or something. At least at that point in time,
He
I
volunteered
don't
for
know.
Blackwater after the Blackwater scandals. Like if that doesn't
Yeah,
tell you
He
something,
did.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
Is like we could talk all this about his character and his judgment, and I'm going to agree with every fucking assessment, which is well, not every assessment. I don't think he's a secret Nazi. He's just a fucking dipshit and has horrible judgment. But guess what? He's got to be the candidate.
Yeah.
Mills is not winning tomorrow. All right, it's not happening. I don't know. He literally dropped out of the race 2 months ago. I don't know why anyone's even saying it's going to be anyone but
Oh, yeah, no,
Platter.
yeah.
So if it's going to be in the general and it's between him and Collins who consistently votes for Trump's nominees, who says, you know what, he learned his lesson over and over and over again after January 6th. Yeah, I'm going to get Plattner in there. Get the fucking dipshit idiot who got the Nazi tattoo. He's better than Collins. I'm sorry. It's just a better choice. So
No,
Well,
I
there-
agree. Obviously.
Yeah, lots of angles from which to attack Graham Plattner, but he is probably going to be the Dem nominee and vote blue no matter who, I guess.
Hell
On the
yeah.
other side of that, though, is James Tallarico, who, I mean,
King.
is the spitting image of what you would want a candidate to look like in Texas, and he certainly has the Christian messaging down. He was recently accused of being formerly trans and or gay.
or vegan.
Or vegan. That might also
Not
be
sure which one's worth.
Mhm.
yeah,
Which
which one
one's
of
worse?
those do you think is going to take down James Tallarico?
In
and prevent him
Texas,
from
probably
being-
the veganism. That's really
Well, that's
That's
why
all
they're
you
coming
care
out with
about.
the barbecue oppo, where he's got to like eat as much meat as possible in the next few months, so that he's not.
Not
a
a
By the
bad-
way, you
not
cannot
bad
be a
idea.
vegan and a homosexual man. Okay, that's not possible.
Because you eat
Based.
meat.
Oh no.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
What if
Yes.
you're
I was
purely
trying
a
to
top?
think
Can you be a vegan and serve meat? I think you can. You're just kind of a hypocrite.
Well,
Hey, all
regardless
the
of-
best chefs are fat, so I don't agree.
Get into the
Fair.
real issues on the marketplace of ideas.
Indeed, indeed. Well, whether his sexual proclivities and do in fact meet with his accusations, is that going to be enough to take him down a couple notches in Texas? I keep hearing about Republicans who are breaking from the party to support Tallarico because of the everything, but also Tallarico's Christian messaging, and also Ken Paxton's particularly scandal-plagued career. Maybe that might move things a bit more in Tallarico's favor. What do you think about Tallarico, Dylan?
Well, James Telfrico, which was one of the names they were running with, I mean, he's got the best shot Democrats have had in my lifetime of taking Texas, in my opinion. Beto O'Rourke made
Guys, I'll be
some
right back. I need to
vital
grab
campaign
something.
missteps. Obviously, going out there and talking about gun banning in any way as a Texas Senate candidate, kind of sunk him from the beginning. I mean, he
I'm
did
gonna
pretty
take
well
away your
given.
AR-15s.
Yeah, just a terrible idea. And he went out there and he did the best he could, and he was within 2 points. Now, under these conditions, where the national momentum is against Republicans, it is for Democrats, the issue which Trump got elected on, the economy, he is polling historically bad on. I mean, he's had 60-point swings when it comes to young voters on the economy. That type of swings in a 1-year time period is really not that heard of. And so right now, Trump's polling worse than Bush did on foreign policy at this time in a second term, right? So I don't know about what you guys feel about the national momentum, but I think Democrats, irrespective of the redistricting, which isn't going to affect the Senate outcome in Texas, I think the momentum spells good things for Tellerico. I think Tellerico was better than Jasmine Crockett as an option. I like Jasmine Crockett. You know, when I see her in committee, she seems good enough. But the question is who can win the election. And James Tellerico seemed to be the better candidate. He seemed to poll better, and it's really as simple as that. If she would have polled any better than James Tellerico, then I probably would have been in like that McMurrow version of like the whatever like line she would have done of like cymbals and drums as she goes to the party convention and accepts the nomination or whatever it would have been. But at the end of the day, he's a devout Christian. He is somebody who is a former elected, so he shows he can win before. He can go into hostile media environments like the Joe Rogan podcast and leave having Joe Rogan said, I like you. Why don't you run for president, James Tellerico? Is the type of things Joe Rogan is saying about this guy. And at the same time, he's running against a opponent who is number one, has accused of corruption. Number two, accused of inappropriate behavior with women. Number three, not very witty. And number four, not very good to look at. And so all these things came together to just, I think, give Democrats a really good shot. Not to mention James Tellerico raising a lot of money, raising a good amount of money. And so the polling I see right now, it's like a close single digit rates between James Tellerico and Paxton. So I feel pretty good about James Tellerico. And I think that the more he talks about the economy and talks about taking the economy back for working people, whether or not that leans into populist messaging or not, good. Ken Paxton is going to lean into populist messaging. He's just going to lean into populist messaging on issues that people have heard about before. You know, bathrooms, school sports,
Immigration
all that,
causing the housing crisis.
Yeah, and now I think that might not be enough though, because when you look at voters and you ask them what do they not want to hear more about, trans issues is like literally number one of the things they don't want to hear any more about. And that's just, and when people hear that, they think, oh, that means they don't want to hear trans people continuing to talk about, you know, how they're gonna like make your kid trans through the new mass experiment or whatever they imagine. No, it's a lot of it's also Republicans just whining about trans people that most people don't even interact with in their daily lives.
I want to hear what Sophie's Child has to say about all this.
Oh my gosh, probably quite a bit. Yeah, I because especially when it comes to like I feel like there's a lot of issues with how Tellerico came to be, especially in comparison to Jasmine Crockett, but that's neither here nor there. I just took so much issue personally with her being deemed, you know, unelectable or less electable than the white dude, which, you know, when she's also a devout Christian, when she's also, you know, held office, when she's also done so much more, I'd say publicly, she's mumified, she's, you know, big body, butch build, you know, I feel like she had a lot of qualities that were not only at the same sort of level as Tellerico, but probably even better, you know, as far as her ability to win this. And even with what Soypil was saying, like about how like we're kind of a shoe-in at this point, like Dems are gonna win, you know, Dems have such a good chance. Like, why not run somebody who you know, might push it a little bit, who yes, you know, yes, running a black woman in Texas, you know, it could be a challenge, but I think it's one.
Hey, not to silence black women, but guys, why are we all arguing about communism in the chat right now? What is going on? Was this because Kalinda was like, communism's evil, and then like the communist portion of my chat is gonna have a fucking meltdown apparently, because I didn't even know they were there. But guys, come on. If you're looking at the USSR and you're looking at it favorably, come on. Let's be realistic. The only people that really liked East Germany were the people that didn't get fucked over by them, which is a whole lot of them.
I'm happy to support him. I'm not like Hassan. I'm not gonna be like, oh fuck him just because he got in over the person that I wanted. I agree with you. I think that because he is that sort of ideal candidate, that yes, he does have a good shot at it. Especially considering the close margins um, in the previous race where we were so close to having a Democrat in office in Texas. But um, I was thinking about the whole
You can say the USSR isn't true communism. Sure, okay, then just know that that's what everyone thinks of when they think of communism, and what you're defending is communism on paper. And tell them to read theory. Good luck, have fun.
to see like Elon Musk's, Roman salute, to know that he's a piece of shit and he's he's very, much um trying to advance the cause of the alt right and white supremacy. It just it's one of those situations with Plattner where we didn't really need to see the tattoo to kind of know that he's this edgelord, like Kalinda's saying, kind of a piece of shit, kind of a dude. Um, you know,
Yeah, Vagrant, if you're a Lenin defender, dude, just go Google the kulaks and tell me you still defend that guy. Come on, man.
same way that I support Tallarico because he's going to be, the person that we want to represent the Democrats. Like, I'm fully behind Plattner. I sure hope he.
Actually, that's a good fucking point. How the hell is it that like Hassan can call himself a Marxist-Leninist and say like, "Oh, Lenin's based," but like I would never ever defend, or vote for Kamala Harris because of the genocide she's doing, and it's like, oh, but the fucking farmer genocide that Lenin did, oh, whatever, like that's not a fucking purity test for me.
When he votes in ways that we don't like. But I take heart for two reasons. One, I've been hearing a lot of parallels drawn between him and Fetterman. And so people are like, oh, what if he gets in and he's. But then I look at like the fact that Fetterman actually has voted with the Dems like 91% of the times. That's even more than some other like top Democrats. And so it's not like having somebody in that seat who is a Democrat but doesn't necessarily go our way all the time is such a bad thing. So even if we do see some of that backsliding or two-facedness, it might not be as bad as we think, because even the kind of case in point of that with Fetterman isn't as bad as we think. I think that's made out to be this really super bad thing in order for them, basically the right wingers, to try to latch on to that to hopefully try to flip him even. And so that's one of those things where I think we do better to.
Louis, the kulaks, I mean, I'm sure there was kulak stuff under Stalin, but look up Lenin kulaks, like he fucking purged them. What was it called? Like the hanging order, yeah, which was 1918? No. Hold on, that might be something else. I might be confusing a couple things, but he definitely killed a bunch of kulaks, so.
We think so, but I also take heart.
It's still 10 times better than a Republican, even a
Exactly.
Republican.
Fetterman is a betterman. Okay, so we're gonna go with that. But also, like, let's look at this. Like, this motherfucker has a Nazi tattoo. He's sexting women. He's having affairs. He's a piece of shit, and he's still gonna be like the dude. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, not only is he doing this and he's still winning, Trump did that. He won. So I'm kind of like, that's the thing we have to do. Like, do what you have to do. Say what you have to say. Be who you need to be to get in that position of power. And as long as that position of power is still, largely beneficial to the Democratic Party, I genuinely don't see the problem with it. So I feel like, maybe this is a lesson for the Tallaricos, for, the Newsoms. They're going to come at you with all this shit, founded or not, or unfounded. And the fact that these very founded things.
Give me a jump scare, Ice Brescia. Juicy. The fucking Aussie language over here. What's up?
And they're still not making a dent. And like Soyful said, they're actually getting these people more money. There's a lesson there. There's a lesson there. So in the same way that my friend was saying, yes, you care about trans people. No, you shouldn't, hinge your electability on that. Yeah, let's get these folks in, and then we have so much of a better chance to actually put legislation in place, not just EOs that actually make a fucking difference for the people that we want to see advanced and helped. And I think that's how we actually move the party further left.
Yes.
Way more than just handing the shit to the Republicans. So yeah, I take heart. I take
Yeah.
heart in people like Plattner.
Yeah,
Well-
imperfect as they are,
Yeah.
they can still be, useful in bringing about a better system.
Well,
Do
with
we know what
Agreed.
Tallarico thinks about you?
Real quick, Reason Riffs. No, I have no problem with German. I speak German. I love German. I actually like Aussie shops, which is like all the shops that have all the like nostalgia, like the nostalgia for East Germany stuff in them. It's cool. But East Germany wasn't cool, so
In favor of a major aid package from everything that I've seen.
Oh, okay.
And that's in
Hell
your Trek
yeah,
Ukraine
awesome.
system.
Yeah, we graded him. He's not in the search tool for legislators who voted on legislation, but we're integrating the posters soon, so even candidates will be integrated in that. But for now, he's just ranked green. We've ranked him green with like 4 or 5 bullet points detailing more information.
How do we find
I
more
really,
on the Track Ukraine stuff? Because that's so cool.
We
Yeah.
have socials, Track Ukraine on Twitter, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, and we have a website, trackukraine.com, where you can see not only a lot of our gradings, but there's also a search tool so people can look up their legislator and see how they voted on like legislation like the Support Ukraine Act, which just came through. And so obviously we can't grade everyone after every major piece of legislation, but the legislation can adjust. It can like adjust the ranking system. So like all the legislation is like weighted in some way. So, you get 5 points here, 5 points there, and you can see a general grading depending upon how much aid they've supported, if they condemned the kidnapping of children or not. So we have that type of ranking for every legislator, and we engage with candidates all the time. Like we're engaged with a few campaigns.
Well, that takes us pretty nicely into the last segment of the official conversation as we look at the final 13 minutes that we have with Soypill, who has other obligations. I wanted to bring our attention to any candidates that you actually do like. We've talked a lot about candidates that have various baggages associated with them, but maybe it would be nice to finish the official conversation on a high note, talking about some candidates that you're enthusiastic about and maybe don't have quite as much dragging them down. Before we get into that, if you've been enjoying this conversation, we are the marketplace of ideas. We try and focus on the good faith and good fun to be found in the political space in YouTube. If you've enjoyed it, please check us out at the marketplace of ideas.
guys, after this, we might take a peek at the WIC panel and see if I can yell or not. Take a peek.
Of anybody on the panel who wants to stick around after we stop the official conversation, we'll be opening things up for call-ins. We'll also be playing a game. So check out our Discord link in the YouTube video if you want to join us for that. With that said, Soypill, who's a candidate that you are enthusiastic about, either in the midterms or perhaps maybe even for the presidency? Your choice.
Oh man, I mean, for the midterms, I think Tallarico is like the model. Like, hey, all right, this is like perfect. Like, all right, you're not gonna get damaged by the baggage of bigotry, which is not a good thing that I like, but it happens unfortunately. You've got the synthesis of like the homebody kind of religious, but like not too religious, and like I just think everyone needs to get along sort of thing. And he's got good messaging. But for the fucking presidency, man, I don't know. Like everything is so far out, and so much could come up. Like I like Ro Khanna's policies. I don't know how he would fare on a national stage. Just like speaking wise, I like a lot of what Gavin Newsom does. I don't like some of the stuff he did in California, but like I think he's probably got a really good chance. So it's hard for me to say now for the presidency. For the midterms, yeah, I think Tallarico is like picture perfect. But like honestly, I don't fucking care. I don't care about a model candidate. I just care about getting Republicans out of power now, and then we can think about getting more model candidates in after that. So.
Sophie, I'm curious, who do you have as an ideal candidate in your perspective?
Roy Cooper. I'm from North Carolina. I think he has a real chance of becoming at least one of our Democratic senators, and so really hoping he can take it. I'm also like fully supportive of Tallarico. I'm fully supportive of Plattner. Like I absolutely hope that they get in and kill it for the aforementioned reasons. I'd say as far as for president, um, that's a tough one. I gotta go with Newsom. Like I genuinely think that he's got the best anti right wing messaging that can really again give us that the language, the voice that we need to harness and that energy, like Soy Pill was saying, like we have to be at that same level of, you know, rage and outrage that is warranted right now. We are facing a fascist um government and takeover. You know, I hate to say it, but I genuinely hope nothing goes down with the midterms. Like I, you know, my biggest fear is that Trump pulls some bullshit and, you know, absolutely interrupts, you know, our free and fair elections for real. And so like that's one of those things where I think that, you know, Newsom's one of the few people kind of bringing the heat, bringing the pain, and actually like not only like ridiculing him, but also having the appropriate level of anger and rage that we need to exhibit right now.
Okay. We got Roy Cooper added to the list of ideal candidates along with James Tallarico. And for president, it seems like so far we've had two answers for Newsom with a nod to Kana.
You know what?
Kalinda.
You know what?
Oh, sure.
Kamala Harris. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. Fuck all of that. Kamala Harris. She should run again. She was the fucking perfect candidate. Maybe we'll see it this time.
Sure. We'll add Kamala to the list. Kalinda, who do you have
Thank
as an
you.
ideal candidate?
Well, all right. I like Tallarico quite a bit from what I have seen, although there are issues that I have with him. But I don't know. Democrats, unfortunately, aren't seem as on board, perhaps, as I have come around to being like very much in favor of funding the military. Lockheed liberalism is based and awesome, and I think that probably that needs to happen more.
Imagine attaching a fucking ideology to like, hey, Lockheed Martin, this thing that like makes drones that kill people all over the world. Like, I specifically didn't want to go into defense as an aerospace graduate, and it's so fucking cringe to me that it's like, oh man, it's Northrop Grumman liberalism. It's like, all right, just like attach your name to fucking warmongers who profit off war and shit. It's so gross.
Oriented statement about that, and how like he probably wouldn't use like words like that, but like there's something true about the core of what he was saying, which is obviously, you know, that man cannot know God like in that way, or that God doesn't necessarily have a particular gender or whatever. And I think that stuff has been really good. And
Palantir Progressive is hilarious. Nice one, Psycho Squid.
who is probably a nightmare of a candidate. I think that might be another case of Donald Trump endorses a really bad candidate because he was mad at the previous candidate who probably could have won, because he cares more about screwing over people who have wronged him than he does about like actually winning. And every time he paid, like so many of his crazy, he just seems really bad at choosing candidates. So as far as like actual like or like the presidential thingy, I think Newsom's pretty great. Either him or Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly's really great too. Not only did he do that really cool video with the whole it's okay to disobey, or like you should.
Hold on, let me see if you guys can see this. Guys, this is Lockheed liberalism to me. This comic. This fucking comic. Like, this is Lockheed liberalism. They say the next one will be sent by a woman. Like, alright, guys. Like, are we really making this our ideology? Please.
Hilarious posts from the Gavin Newsom press office on Twitter, and the fact that he stepped up and did all that stuff with the redistricting thing, because he actually did want to fight back.
Brilliant. Excellent. So we'll add Mark Kelly to the list of presidential candidates to look out for in the future. Another shout out to our Mr. Tallarico. Dylan, who do you have as a candidate that you think is ideal from your perspective?
Sure, I'll do with the midterms first and then go for presidential. Adam in New York's 12th was somebody who recently won their primary. They're now going to be the general election candidate for the Democrats. They were a doctor in Gaza. They did a lot of good work. I asked them about Ukraine. They got a good position on Ukraine when I asked them during the PV AMA. And they said they support a defense package, so I appreciate their their values on that. I appreciate their support on that, and so I'd like to see progressives taking a strong stance on that when asked. I like Raphael Warnock just generally as a candidate. I just wanted to bring that generally up. I just think everything about him, from his image to the way he speaks, from the fact that having pastors in politics from the Democratic side is just like, I think, generally beneficial, especially since the Black church has always been such a strong base for the Democratic Party. I come from gorgeous Prince George's, so I have to shout out the Black church. I also want to talk about Josh Torek in Iowa, who I think has a better chance of winning the Senate race than a lot of people give him credit for. I still think the odds are against him, but the idea of a blue Democrat senator from Iowa would have been considered ridiculous just 8 years ago, considering how the election results were coming then. But right now, I mean, the last poll I saw, they're within a point of each other. So, I mean, if you believe the polls carry any weight, that is of some significance. Also, the odds in Alaska. Not only because of the Republican, candidate having this switcheroo around the name in the Republican primary, and whether that was Democrat tomfoolery or not, doesn't seem to matter really all that much. But what does matter is whether or not Democrats actually win the election, and I think that they have a decent chance in Alaska as well. As for presidential candidates, Governor Wes Moore, of course. I'm a Marylander, and I want our first Marylander president. But I also think that, considering the amount of state budgetary restraints that he's under, I mean, there's other people that would be worse. I would probably prefer Chris Van Hollen as both my personal senator and, again, another Marylander. We need a Marylander as president. That's my main issue, my number one issue. But besides that, and I mean this unironically, I mean, why don't we run Hunter Biden? I mean, like, right now, when I see him out there and how he's speaking, like, you're not going to find dirt on Hunter Biden that's going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Like, they have dug through every inch of his life. They have taken everything out. They aired out all the dirty laundry. And he's out there.
Dylan, yes.
And people out there, they're saying like, oh, well, you're a meth head. He's like, no, bitch, I'm a crackhead. He's like, and it's beautiful. And right now, honestly, like the Biden family.
In the Epstein files. He's
nowhere in the Epstein files. He liked his women of age. That's definitely something that all of the reports seem to indicate. Yes. Yeah. Like his penis is already out there on the interwebs. You see everything about him is already publicly listed. He polls not too bad, actually. In the head-to-head matchups with certain Republican candidates, I'd like to honor. This is a genuine request. Pollsters should spend time polling Hunter Biden for president in 2028. I called for this like years ago. I remember like when Channel 5 like ran around my neighborhood, they asked me, what do you think? I think Hunter needs to run to set the country straight. I said it a little bit as a joke, but I'm manifesting it a little bit. Now, if Hunter Biden is the nominee, okay, as the main proponent of the Hunter Biden should run election committee, I think his VP pick should either be Mark Kelly or Raphael Warnock. They would add a level of seriousness to his figure that doesn't currently exist, that I think could actually get him over the line against potential President J.D. Vance. I think that ticket, this is my genuine opinion, would beat J.D. Vance in a matchup in 2028.
Hear me out. Michelle Obama VP. Okay, we run Biden again in reverse.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Will Malia or Sasha be old enough?
I just want to say, like, listen, I know that like that was at least maybe partially a meme. I think
I don't know.
I think that Hunter could probably do pretty well if he like, I don't know, ran for like the House or something, or started, like somewhere. Maybe followed in his dad's footsteps, had a bit of a career before he jumped in. But then again, who knows? Yeah, I know he does, but a lot of people think that I don't know whether or not like somebody could come along and replicate what Trump did for the Democrats, because we're not exactly the same as the Republicans in terms of like as a group of people and the kind of things that we.
Anyone looking for Live and Learn, Shays, it's tomorrow. We rescheduled because I had this. I was going to overlap a little bit, and Hutch has that WIC panel that he's doing right now. So you can go check that out when I get offline as well if I don't hop into it. But yeah, Live and Learn's tomorrow at 4 PST.
Farmed oysters.
You know what? we are at 4 o'clock now, so I wanted to give Soy Pill a chance to get any last thoughts, final words out before we let him head off to Wick TV, which everybody should tune in for later.
Yeah.
By the way, Soy Pill, if you want to debate me about the military-industrial complex and me being a warmonger, hit me up because I'd be
debate
happy
you about
to.
it? What would they? What do you mean?
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm assuming that you don't agree with what I said.
Oh, I
Listen,
think
people in
Lockheed
my chat
liberalism
said
is super
things.
cringe. Yeah. But you know, good for you if you make it work, and you already overlap with some of my positions that I'm not gonna like fucking terrible. This is not the time to be like debating the minutia whether or not we give another military contract to Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin. Like whatever. Like I don't like it, but like that's we'll fight about this in 5 years.
Okay.
Okay. You know, when we win, then we can fight about it.
Well, that was a
All right,
nice,
yeah,
quick-spirited
okay.
debate. That was wonderful. We knocked that out. This is the end here. Beautiful. Yeah, Soy, thanks so much for joining us. Any final thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm the Soy Pill. I just have a new video out. Go check it out. And I stream sometimes. Soy Pill. At the beginning. It's
Good
me.
luck.
Pill, the.
Good
And
luck
Yeah,
on the
sure.
Wick panel.
Great
That'll
video.
be a
All right.
A
fun
lot of fun that
watch.
video.
All right.
Beautiful.
Let's check
All right,
this out.
thanks so much for joining us.